In the foothills outside the port city of Guayaquil, the economic capital of Ecuador, just 150 miles south of the equator, the landscape is dominated by the leafy green cacao plant.
This is a ripe cacao fruit, right?
Yes, this is a ripe cacao fruit.
That's, wow. And these are, the beans are inside, right?
Yes, those are the beans, and around them, it's the pulp.
This is a golden age of cocoa production in Ecuador, with output expected to reach 800,000 tons by 2030, more than double 2023 levels. The reason stems back to the changing climate.
So if there's an extreme heat event, it can kill plants. Extreme rains can prevent farmers from planting or harvesting their crops. And things like dry soils or overly moist soils can affect the quality of plants that are grown. Back in 2010, there was a major heat wave across Russia that affected wheat production in sort of the global breadbasket for wheat, which severely affected wheat prices as well. Just a few years ago in the United States, there was really widespread spring flooding across the Midwest that caused millions and millions of dollars in crop losses.
Cocoa is grown in a narrow band of the tropics, and when extreme weather in West Africa, home to about 70% of the world's cocoa beans, collided with outbreaks of swollen shoot disease in 2024, the industry was hit hard. Kristina Dahl is Vice President for Science at Climate Central. She tracks how climate change is pushing cocoa growing conditions past their comfort zone.
There's an optimal range for cacao trees, and that range goes up to about 32 degrees centigrade or 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And we looked into how often climate change is causing hot temperatures that exceed that optimal temperature range for the cacao trees. And what we found is that over the last 10 years or so, because of climate change, there's an additional 3 weeks worth of days each year that are above that optimal temperature range in the West African region.
And what does that mean for the growth of those cacao trees then?
These hot temperatures cause the leaves of the tree to shrivel, and then those leaves don't provide adequate shade for the pods in which the cocoa beans actually are produced. And so that can cause the pods to rot, to dry up, and all of that affects the yield that you get from those trees, and ultimately, down the line, how much cocoa there is in the global market.
The result, a shortage of beans that triggered a historic price spike. In the span of just a few months, cocoa surged almost 80%, past $12,000 a ton in the U.S. market. Though prices have since fallen back to around $5,000 a ton, they're still more than double where they were 3 years ago. And as West Africa's production struggles, growers across the Atlantic, especially in Ecuador, are stepping in to fill the gap. Cacao is believed to have originated in the upper Amazon, in what is now Ecuador, and made its way to Africa in the early 1800s. It's now come full circle as Ecuadorian farmers ramp up production, putting the country in position to soon surpass Ghana as the world's #2 producer.
And right now, Ecuador is in the all chocolatiers formula in the world, because for our volume that offer to the market, we sell to Europe, to the United States, to Asia, to Japan, to everywhere. Ecuador is recognized for a very good cocoa producers for different parts of the world.
Ivan Ontaneda is chairman of Ecuador's Cocoa Exporters Association, as well as CEO of Eco Cacao, one of the country's largest exporters. He says Ecuador is also vulnerable to the changing climate.
2024, it was a very challenging year for everybody around the world, in the industry, for the farmers, for the exporters, for the traders, and for the industry, because never seen the prices over $10,000 per metric ton. Ecuador has 2 seasons, rainy seasons and sun seasons, no more. But in the last 2 years, that are changing a lot.
How are you preparing your members of your association to work with that and to address that challenge?
I think we need to continue to invest in genetics, because if you see the problems right now in West Africa is about disease. Ecuador need to prepare for some disease as well.
But there are some ways Ecuador is looking to safeguard its cocoa industry from the changing climate. The genetics it currently relies on is CCN51, a high-yield cacao strain developed in the 1980s, prized for its productivity and relative hardiness, making it a go-to for growers like Johann Zeller.
How long will this mountain of beans sit here for?
Until next week.
And then it all gets put into big burlap sacks?
That is correct. We move anywhere between 300 to 1,000 tons per week.
It's not just the strain of cacao, but also the way Ecuadorian farmers grow the crop that can reduce risk. They plant cacao alongside other trees and shrubs, a more sustainable method that also helps prevent disease, a problem frequently associated with monoculture farming, as seen in West Africa.
So in the months where there's a lot of wind, the leaves get too dry. So if you have bigger trees around, then it's going to prevent them from getting too dry.
I see.
And it's going to increase yields. The second thing that happens is that cacao gets eaten here by squirrels. So if you have tall trees, you get hawks, and the hawks would eat the squirrels. And that also helps.
The life cycle. Okay, I got it.
And overall health of the farm. I mean, you want to keep the ecosystem as vibrant and moving as you can.
In addition to growing cacao, Zeller also processes the fruit on site, serving as a key link for chocolatier Oded Brenner's latest venture, a company called Blue Stripes. Brenner, who turned chocolate retail into an immersive theater experience around the globe with his Max Brenner chocolate concept stores in the early 2000s, has since pivoted to building a new cacao business.
Why do you use cacao from Ecuador solely as opposed to West African cacao or Indonesian cacao?
Ecuador, for us, they were really innovative and cooperative with discovering the cacao fruit. And it happened. I mean, it just happened. Somebody introduced me to somebody in Ecuador. I came here. This guy, Johann Zeller, he was already working with cacao fruit and trying to do things with cacao fruit and trying to penetrate the US market. And he kept on investing, and we kept on investing, and together it just took off. So in general, people say that Ecuador's cacao is one of the best in the world in terms of quality.
It's not just a changing climate that's driving Ecuador's cocoa boom. As the middle class grows rapidly across the developing world, chocolate is one of the first products to see a surge in demand. One way Blue Stripes hopes to meet that demand is by using more of the fruit.
Look at this fruit. It's a giant, almost like a football-size fruit, that they grow this entire fruit and use only the little seeds to make chocolate. This was maybe okay when the world was less than 1 billion people. But when the world is 9 billion people, 8 billion people, and everybody loves chocolate, is it okay to use only the little seeds and throw 75% when you can do so much with it? Let's use everything that we put, the energy, the effort, the money, the time, for us, because it's so delicious and nutritious.
Extreme weather has become a recurring risk around the world, and agriculture, including cocoa, is among the most exposed.
What's your single biggest concern when it comes to the impact of climate change on the chocolate industry?
There's not going to be cacao. I mean, talk to farmers here. You know what? I'll tell it's scary, because when I came first to Ecuador 4 years ago, I could see how the seasons and how the climate is. I could see it in my own eyes. I can see that the rainy season is not coming. I could see that suddenly cacao if cacao season was almost ending at end of December, January, suddenly there is cacao until whatever, end of January, beginning of February, but then you don't have cacao, it's already June and there is no cacao. There is less cacao on the trees. You see it in your own eyes.
What does the cocoa story tell you about where climate and agriculture are headed in the next 10 years, 20 years?
So as a planet, all of us who consume chocolate essentially rely on a small handful of nations that have a climate today that's suitable for cacao production. The decentralization of cocoa production would help to make the market more robust, because For example, if you have a year when West Africa is being heavily affected by erratic, heavy rains at the wrong time of the year, it's unlikely you're going to be having the same thing happening halfway across the globe in Ecuador, where conditions are different. And so being able to source cacao from many different parts of the globe would help to make for a more resilient commodity overall. And unfortunately, with continued climate change, we can expect to see more shocks to our global crops, like we saw with cocoa production in 2024.